Okay, I am probably back in my phase of laying in bed while I'm doing these videos, which I went through for quite a while. Lately, I've been doing them at home at Guruji's place, walking and stuff. And now I'm here and it's hot in the middle of the day, so I've been kind of chilling out, and that's when all of the mental stuff comes, and then I think, okay, I can make a video. Anyway, good afternoon. It's like 12:40 p.m., something like that. Yesterday I made a video about the teaching yoga, and a couple of people asked me what do I mean by what I said, because I guess I didn't clarify it, because I get caught in the train of thought and then I move on into other things, because I do everything stream of consciousness. I have an idea, but I don't really have any verbiage planned out, so it kind of just comes out the way it comes out. And then it ends up going to a different location maybe, and that's what happened yesterday, I guess. So I'm going to clarify that a little bit. So a lot of times these days, what is being taught is how to perform the asanas in a good way to impress a teacher. And I was doing that for my own practice when I was coming to see Sharath. I wasn't really performing so much, but I was making sure that I looked a certain way, doing everything and all of that. And when you're teaching your students, you're teaching them so that they look a certain way while they're doing this stuff, so that they feel like you can tell that they're disciplined. So eventually it makes the teacher look good, if Sharath knows who the teacher is. And a year ago, not quite a year ago, but almost a year ago, Sharath passed away. And during that first week after we had his funeral, where I was part of the cremation process, I was at the ceremony and I was there and putting wood on the body and that kind of thing. Between that time and the next week, when they had a certain ceremony, the names of all these are in Sanskrit, so I'm not going to really tell them because you may not remember. It doesn't really matter. There's a ceremony a week later to help them kind of get into the next stage of heaven, if that's what your goal is. And several people were there who I knew. And my good friend was there, and I was driving to pick her up to go to this ceremony. So Guruji's house is pretty far out, so it was a long drive to Gokulam to pick her up, and then we went together. While I was driving there, I had the sensation, this had been after a week. We knew he was deceased for 2 weeks, and it was a week after we had cremated him. So I had a little bit of time to process. Also, I'm going to say this, people who were there when the body was cremated seemed to have a lot of closure. And the people who weren't there had a lot of emotional issues because they didn't get to say goodbye in that same way. And seeing the body start on fire, being there when they were doing the Vedic rituals that are required to do to make sure their spirit is prepared to leave the body and go into the next stage, is very fulfilling. I'm not meaning, you're happy they're dead, meaning you feel okay, you've made peace with the fact that they're deceased. Their body's not going to be walking around anymore. Anyway, so while I was having those feelings after 2 weeks of all this process, I was driving to see her, and on the long road that goes through the countryside, I started crying because I realized I was really free for the first time. And free meaning I had always been teaching and behaving the way that Sharath wanted us to teach and to behave. as Ashtanga yoga teachers. And I'm also always myself. You know, if people know me, they know I'm very forthcoming. I'm very upfront with my thoughts and my things, my ideas of things. And I don't really back down when I don't agree with something else. But I'm not going to argue with you about it. You know, it's not, I'm trying to prove my points right. That's not how I am. But I had in the back of my mind, maybe in the back of my heart, because I had a strong connection with Shra, that I wanted to uphold the ideals that he put out there as a teacher and as a practice. So it wasn't fully being who I am. It was putting off a little bit of that. Not a lot, but a little bit. So while the only time I've taught between then and now, you know, now I'm teaching these 2 weeks in Dehradun, was in Germany. So while I was in Germany, I was teaching, and I was kind of starting to figure out something. I started leaning more toward the way I learned from Nancy and from Tabi Joyce, the old way of doing things. That made more sense to me, and it felt more fulfilling to the people, because the people are allowed to have a little bit more control over their practice, because it is their body, it is their day. They know what they have to do that day, so if they need to do less, you know, it's okay, and they know what they need to do in their life that day, so maybe they need to do more because they need some more energy, they need to burn off some, you know, mental bullshit. And I started allowing myself to feel that freedom that I had not done before. So what happened this time is I realized that over those years I was teaching, up until now, I had always been expecting the people to go to India to practice with Shra. So I was teaching them to be a little bit more performative than I actually believe in being. And I was teaching them to do more than maybe they wanted to do. But in my opinion, that was creating stamina so that they could do it. Because when you were with Shra, you were required to do your full practice daily. Because his idea was you were in Mysore, not at home. You didn't have a job to do. So you should give it your all while you're there. And that was what you were there for, was to show what you can do, show where you were in your practice, and impress him. I don't think that he felt that way, but this is my mental bullshit. I thought that I was supposed to be doing that as one of his teachers. And so now, I'm not teaching that way. I'm encouraging you to feel your own way through the practice. I'm there to remind you if you forget the next pose. I'm also there to help you find some kind of variation if you need it that day, or if you can't do the pose fully. I'm also there to remind you about your breath and your bandhas, and I'm there to remind you that we're doing this to move energy so that we have more energy in our daily life. And I think I had that as my mindset before, but on top of that was these kind of ideas of how Shra wanted us to teach. And I was seeding into teaching that way more than what I was doing to teach people how to be their own yogi. And so now my goal isn't to get you prepared to go to Mysore, because Shra's not there anymore. So who do I send you to? His mother? If you want to go to his mother, that you can. That's your business. There are other teachers there also. I'm there, so you can come and practice with me. But you're not coming to impress me. That's not the point. Um, Now, for the first time, I feel I'm honestly teaching people so that they are trying to find a sense of yoga within themselves, in their own heart, in their own mind, in their own being, in their own energy field. And they're not there to impress anyone, not even themselves. They're just there to say, I'm doing this. Today I have this much energy. How much can I do and maintain that and not deplete my energy? And I want to have energy for the rest of my day. How do I do that? And how do I get this connection feeling in my heart and in my head? And how do I feel that energy flowing? That's yoga. Yoga is union with the divine. Whatever that means to you is what it means to you, but to me, it means kind of what I've been talking about in the video yesterday also. So that's a little bit of, hope that clarifies it, because I did go off a little bit on a few things, but if it doesn't, that's okay. I have to give it up. In person, I'm pretty articulate and able to express myself more completely, because we're having a back and forth. So if you don't understand, you can say, I need this, and I can say, okay, that, and we can clarify it back and forth to each other. Anyway, that's all I got today. Ciao.